Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Kamma. We are up to Perek Tet, Mishnah Yud Bet. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbai Veliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Chana bad Miriam, Sason ben Ryan, Yoshua ben Shifra, Meduchatam began Eden, Amen. And Avdi ben Chaim Lechaim v'derefua shel emav Daniel Shino ben Rosa, Betor Shah Cholei Yisrael, Dachlama Mera, Binyamin Old Sion Chai ben Dvorah. The previous Mishnah taught that if the thief died before he paid the Kohanim, the payments are kept by his heirs and the Hasham can no longer be offered. We also learned even if the thief died after he paid the Kohanim, the Hasham is not offered. The Mishnah addresses the question of whether the Kohanim have to return the money. Natan et hakesef l'anshei mishmar v'met. If he gave the money to the men of the Mishmar, the group of Kohanim serving that week in the temple, we know the Kohanim were divided into 24 family groups, and each of which served in the temple for 1 week at a time. As it speaks about in Tanit chapter 4, Mishnah 2, each group was known as a Mishmar. When the thief comes to make the payment, he may not give it to any Kohen of his choosing. Rather, he must give it to the Kohanim of that week's Mishmar, who share it among themselves. So if he gave the money to the men of the Mishmar and then died before Zasham was offered, his heirs cannot take the money back from them, even though the thief is no longer able to gain atonement with his asham. Shene'emar, this is because it is stated in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 5, verse 10. What a man gives to the Kohen shall be his, which teaches that once the Kohanim are paid, the money is completely theirs and need not be returned. It could have been thought that the thief's heirs have the following claim: our father paid the Kohanim only to gain atonement, therefore now that he cannot have atonement in any event because he died before bringing his asham, the payment was based on a mistake and the Kohanim must return what they received. The Torah teaches that this is not a valid claim because the payment itself, even without the Hasham, gives some degree of atonement. The Kohanim may therefore keep the money regardless of whether the Hasham is offered. The Mishnah discusses cases where the thief gave the money to one Mishmar and his Hasham was offered by another Mishmar. Natan hakesef lihoyariv ve'Hasham lidaya. If he gave the money to Yehoyariv, the first Mishmar, during its week, and gave the Hasham to Yedaya, the second Mishmar, during its week, the first of the 24 Mishmarot was the family of Yehoyariv, and the second was the family of Yedaya. It says in the book of Chronicles, book 1, chapter 24, verse 7. The robber made the payment to the Mishmar of Yehoyariv during their week, but he did not bring the Hasham until the next week when it was the turn of Yedaya to serve Yatzah. The Mishnah says he has to fulfill his obligation because the payment was made before the Hasham was offered, which is the correct order. As the Mishnah will explain below, the robber gains atonement only if the Hasham is offered after he makes the payment. If, however, he did the reverse, Hasham lehoyariv v'chesed lidaya, meaning he gave the Hasham to Hoyariv, the first Mishmar, and the money to Yedaya, the second Mishmar, the law is as follows: Im kayama Hasham, if the Hasham still exists, meaning if the first Mishmar, Yehoyariv, did not offer it, Yekrivu b'nei Yedaya, the members of Yedaya, the second Mishmar, offer it instead. Because the Hasham was given to Yariv, the first Mishmar, they should be allowed to keep it until after the payment is made and their next time to serve in the temple arrives. The sages decreed, however, that since Yariv acted improperly by accepting the Hasham before the thief made his payment, we take the offering out of their hands and give it to the next Shmar Yitaya. But if the Hasham does not exist anymore because the first Mishmar Yariv had already offered it, the thief must go back and bring another Hasham because the Hasham provides atonement only if it is offered after the payment is made. And the Mishnah states the rule on which these laws are based. This is because one who brought the payment for his theft before he brought his Hasham has fulfilled his obligation. But one who brought his Hasham before he brought the payment for his theft has not fulfilled his obligation. The thief does not receive atonement unless he pays first and brings the Hasham later. And the Mishnah states which part of the payment must be made before the Hasham is offered. If you give the Kohanim the principal that he stole but did not give them the fifth, and the fifth does not hold back his atonement, as long as the Hasham is offered after the principal is paid, it atones for him even though the fifth has not yet been paid. He must, however, pay the fifth later. And that is end of chapter 9, Mishnah 12. We continue now with Perek Yud Mishnah Aleph. This chapter continues to deal with the laws of theft. The first Mishnah teaches when a thief's children are obligated to pay for items that their father stole. If someone steals something and feeds it to his children and then he dies, or if he dies and leaves the stolen item to them as an inheritance and then they eat it, they are not obligated to pay the owner because although they ate the item, it was their father who stole it and they are not required to pay for what he did. The Mishnah refers to a case where the thief left only movable items, metaltalin, to his children. The law is that orphans are not obligated to pay their father's debts, which include payments for items he stole with movable items that they inherited from him, and they are certainly not obligated to pay with their own possessions. The Mishnah below states the law where they inherited real estate from their father. The children are exempt from payment only if the owner had already given up hope of getting the stolen property back, what we call yeush, before they ate it. If he had not yet given up hope, the children themselves are considered to have stolen it when they ate it, in which case they would have to pay the owner even with their own money. As stated in the Mishnah, the children ate the item before or after the thief died. If they did not eat it and it is still intact, they must return it to its owner. However, if there was real estate, land or houses in their inheritance, now, Davar sheyesh ba'achayut literally means possessions that have responsibility. Real estate is referred to in this way because a person's real estate is responsible, meaning it guarantees his financial obligations. For example, if a borrower has no money to repay his loan, the lender can take the amount from the land the borrower owed at the time of the loan, even if the borrower has already sold the land to someone else, but the lender cannot take movable property that the borrower has sold, as the Rav explains in Kiddushin chapter 1, Mishnah 5. So in our case too, since the thief owes money to the owner of the stolen item, the owner can collect his payment from the thief's land even after he has died and has been passed on to his sons. That's why the Mishnah says again, if there was real estate, lands or houses in the inheritance, they're obligated to pay with the real estate because it is mortgaged to pay for their father's obligations. And the Mishnah cites other laws about using property that was stolen by another. And potin lo mitivat muhsin. We may not take change, meaning exchange larger coins for smaller ones from coins in the customs collector's box. Velo mikishel gabayin, or from coins in the tax collector's purse. Then notnin mem tzedakah, nor when we take charity from them. Those who collected taxes and customs fees were suspected of stealing. In earlier times, it was common for kings to obtain their income by selling the right to collect taxes. A person would pay the king a large sum of money in exchange for a right to collect taxes and keep the payment for himself, as Rashi explains in this Masechet Bava Kamma, page 113a. And the Mishnah refers to a collector who is permitted to collect any amount of tax. He is likely to charge unfairly, increasing the obligations of some and decreasing the obligations of others as he chooses. Since this is unjust, the money that he collects is considered stolen. However, a tax collector who is authorized by the king to collect a limited amount from each person or for each type of merchandise is not a thief, because any king or government, whether Jewish or not, has the right to impose laws on its people, including the obligation to pay taxes. The laws of the land are binding across halacha, what we call dina de mlechuta dina. Therefore, a Jew has a religious duty to pay taxes, and it is forbidden to avoid paying them. It is certainly permitted in such a case to take change from a tax or customs collector we were talking about when the collector did it unlawfully. Now, again, those who collected taxes, when we spoke about in our case in the Mishnah where they did it, were suspected of stealing. Therefore, the box or purse that they use for collecting might contain stolen money, which may not be used even for a mitzvah, such as giving charity. In addition, taking stolen money from charity is prohibited because it encourages thieves to steal, since they mistakenly believe that giving the money to charity justifies their sin and exempts them from having to pay the owner. Therefore, again, we're now allowed to take change from coins in the customs collector's box, from larger coins to smaller ones, or from coins in the tax collector's purse, or take charity from them. However, one may take from coins the collector has in his house or from coins he carries in the street, because only the coins in his official tax collecting box or purse are presumed to have been stolen, but not his personal coins. And that is in Abotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.